and welcome back. This is the Hear the Unheard Digital Summit. This is your host, Austin Turner, here with the one and only Tim Woodcock. Tim, welcome to the conversation. How you doing today, sir?
Doing very well, thank you. I just had double jaw surgery, so my speech may be a little bit weird, but I can still talk okay.
Yeah, you're one of the best talkers in the business, so no doubt there. So I don't want to talk too much or introduce you too much to our viewers. We do go back a number of years. For those that don't know Tim and Tim's story, I'm going to have him tell where he came from, his humble beginnings when he first was introduced into the SoCal soccer market. However, we do stretch back, a number of years, and I'm very excited about this conversation. He's going to shed a lot of insight and a lot of great detail into what he's doing in the current environment in order to keep sports, specifically youth soccer, reopened here in SoCal. So Tim, first and foremost, who are you, where are you located, and what makes you a youth sports expert?
Well, expert were your words, not mine. But yeah, we're located in Orange County, predominantly in Irvine. We have, a sizable club, let's say, with about 3,500 players, from 4-year-olds up to semi-professional adults, competitive, recreational, and then men's and women's, semi-pro teams.
Yeah, incredible. And the club you're with, I know everyone knows the club, everyone knows the team. They just won the English Premier League. They're sitting at top right now, one of the best teams to ever do it. Liverpool, let's talk a little bit about that. Liverpool FC International Academy SoCal. We talk a little about when that formed, who you are, what areas you encompass.
Yeah, so we're very fortunate and blessed to recently joined the Liverpool FC International Academy family. We are one of, I think it's 24 international academies now around the globe, working with Liverpool. They provide us with academy curriculum, coach resources, training resources, all the image rights, the branding, and everything, support. And we started in November, and in February, even after three months of being part of Liverpool, they flew over the Champions League trophy to Irvine, and we were able to do a viewing party. We had about 3,000 people came and had their photo taken with the Champions League trophy that Liverpool currently hold. So it's a great relationship, a great partnership, and we feel privileged and honoured to represent Liverpool FC in Southern California. The overall ambition, of the Liverpool FC International Academy is to create basically a replica or an authentic academy experience around our responsibility as an organisation to replicate the LFC Academy and bring it for all of the youth members in Southern California.
Yeah, definitely an incredible academy program with my little bit of knowledge and experience on it itself. Being one of 24 must be a really cool honor for you. I know it's a huge honor for the SoCal market. It's a testament to what we've done over the years in order to develop the type of platform where we would be one of 24 locations around the world to have something like a Liverpool FC International Academy. So kudos to you, first and foremost, obviously the CEO of a very prestigious and prominent organization. Major respect. Let's talk about the beginnings, right? Where did you come from? What brought you to the U.S.? Obviously, the accent isn't my accent, let's just say. But let's talk about that. Where we first got to know each other way back when, 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, so a long time ago, lots of highlights or lots of stories, things to fill in. But Yeah, it all started around about 19. Obviously, grew up playing in England. Played for many different local league clubs, stuff like that. And at 19, I started working with local youth in our youth club. My mum actually worked as an assistant at the local youth club, and I would run the football program in the gym for them. And it was basically me and my mates, you know what I mean, or a few younger kids as well. So the younger kids would come in and play, and it got them off the streets, and then the older guys would kick it around as well. So it started there, and then I kind of developed into a wanting to learn a little bit more about not just playing, but how to teach the game. I was seeing a lot of these kids and seeing how they were playing and stuff. So I signed up to do my FA Preliminary Coaching Award, and which was great. And I met some really cool people on that and managed to get that award. And then I got contacted by Derby County, who were a Premier League club then, and they were going through a hiring process. The FA had basically started a new program to get more coaches involved. We need more youth coaches. So there was a drive to bring in new coaches. So I applied for the job and I got the job, and that was in the early 90s. And I started doing football in the community programs for Derby County, delivering sessions to local elementary schools, mainly for the fact that in England, 90% of the teachers in elementary schools were females at the time, and probably 100% of females teachers had never played football or soccer, when they were growing up. This is early 90s, remember. So we would go in and we would basically run the PE classes for the school as Derby County. And if we found any talented players, then we'd invite them along to Rainsway to the elite centres on Saturdays. And if they did well then they would get called up for basically Centre of Excellence academy trials and stuff like that. And then they'd get on to basically what is now the junior academy teams. So straight away, I was part of the process at Derby County, and it was really cool. And then one day I got talking to a few lads who I was working with. We were doing summer camps, and there was a guy called Alan Merrick who used to play for West Bromwich Albion in the 70s, who'd moved to Minnesota, and who's running a pretty big organisation and bringing over English coaches to Minnesota for 3 months to run his summer camps for him, help run his summer camps. I was one of the fortunate ones to get approached, and it was during our off season. It was basically May to August, and I went over there in '96 and did 3 months, and I absolutely loved it. Really, really loved it. Came back. All my schools and my teams and my programs had all been given out to other coaches, so I had to start again. That was a challenge, but I got the traction back, and then got invited the following year, and then decided that, no, actually, I went back the second year and loved it. I was trying to find a way to stay. I thought it was brilliant, and then Derby were great with me. I was also working for East Staffordshire Council as well, doing football programs for them. But my life was just such a mess when I came back home. And so I had to make a decision of either to move to America and stay there, or not go to America at all. And so by that time, I'd kind of built up a pretty good resume, pretty good CV, good experience, good qualifications. Derby had supported me to do some courses. So I threw my resume out, got half a dozen job offers. One of them was in California with a company called UK International Soccer Camps. They offered me a job, basically sight unseen, following a call, a conference call. And I met with their guys, and I moved out moved out to San Diego in the summer of '98. So working, and then I got a placement. Very lucky to get a placement working with Mira Mesa Rattlers, and and that's how it all started. And I was working summer camps for UK International. Started selling a few camps. Wanted to do my American licenses as quick as I could. I figured out that there were lots of, English, European, or foreign influences in California or in the US, and there was a lot of love for them, but there was also, not a lot of love for uncertain sides. I think some people had come before me and ruined it. So I wanted to do things a little bit different. I wanted to be the English coach who understood how to coach American players. So I really kind of threw myself in to do any coaching course or every coaching course I could get myself on. And within 2.5 years, I had my USSF A license and my National Youth license. And then I went on to do my NSCAA Premier Diploma. I drove to Denver to get, a coaching diploma as well. So I was committed, and I'm committed to personal development, personal growth in order to be better, to serve people better. And I guess it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I'd say. And that's a trip down memory lane, and I appreciate you diving into that. It really is where our conversation, began. Way back when in '99 or '98, was it, when you got that position with Mira Mesa Rattlers? Coming full circle, he was my coach. Way back then, back when I was still developing and growing, and having someone who takes the time to not only be a student of the game, but be a student of himself, constantly developing, constantly trying to improve, and then taking that improvement and development and then bestowing it onto others. Having someone like that propelled me forward as a player, propelled me forward as a young man at 9, 10 years old. And I owe a lot of my passion for the game today for what I was exposed to growing up, not only with my father, Presidio Soccer League, but also with the coaches, such as Tim and several of the others that I've been blessed with having over the years. So every kid, every person who sees this, this interview is going to find value in the fact that where you came from to where you are today are two completely different stories. I know we skipped a lot of your critical path to success. However, every single day, every time you showed up, every time you applied yourself, you did it for the right reason. So major kudos to you.
This might not be, and you can cut this out if you want to, but here's what I got from working with you. Is when I first joined Mira Mesa, you were part of Powerway Vaqueros, and I think you were on a pretty good team, if not a really good team, but I think you were kind of moving backwards down the field. I think from midfield and then into defense and then into sweeper and then maybe into goalkeeper a little bit. And I think you were kind of losing a bit of your passion the further back you went at that time, because you weren't getting to run around and influence things a little bit more. And I always remember when you joined on my brand new team, which was a lower level. I think at least for the first year, it was great because you were a bigger kid and you were stronger and you had this massive kick, but you could also get around as well. And I wanted to encourage you to run more and do more, because you could do more. And I think, I'm not saying that we were delaying the inevitable of you kind of playing at the back or being a keeper or sweeper or whatever, but at least for that first year, for me anyway, it was a real pleasure to see, that fun in your eyes again. You know what I mean? And that light in your eyes and that energy and enthusiasm. Because I think when I first met you and you were playing, I think you were kind of like losing a bit of your passion for the game, because you were maybe regressing. But that was just my perception of it as well. So for those couple of years that I got to work with you, it was great, and you were always fun to work with, and it was a challenge to get you to do what I knew you could do, but you were kind of like not as much of a believer or whatever. But hey, I'm glad that I had those couple of years with you, and I'm glad that I was able to influence you a little bit. And I'm really proud of what you went on to achieve, athletically and now, from a business standpoint. Sharp guy, and kudos to you, mate. Well done.
I very much appreciate that. Very much appreciate that, and owe it to people such as yourself who've come into my life over the years. What I'll touch on as far as my midfield experience. Everybody wants to be a quarterback. Everybody wants to be, the center of the pitch, dictating play, controlling the flow. Everybody wants that, including myself. And even today, when I get back out on the field, I like to go in and play that holding central midfielder position, or whatever it may be, because I still remember the skills and the life lessons and how to read the game within the game taught and bestowed on me by you. So once again, it goes both ways, to say the least.
Because you were blessed with size and you had great technique and a big kick, but you had more than just sitting at the back and just clearing it. You know what I mean? You had more than that, and I wanted more than that for you as well. So I'm glad that we're on the same page with that now. Because it was a battle.
And I feel like, yeah, right. And we could sit here and talk all day. We can tell stories about all the great times. We can tell all stories about the great memories that I have going back 20 years now about games, individual moments, individual experiences. But this isn't about you and I. This is so much bigger. This is, obviously, it's even bigger than soccer. This transcends, the world. This is a global pandemic. But we need to kind of focus, or let's go micro into this conversation onto what it is that the Hear the Unheard Summit is about, which is the reopening of youth sports. It is the highlighting of the travesties and the things that are going on with our youth caused by the state mandated guidelines. So let's kind of focus a little bit on, instead of the past, on where we are at today. Let's talk about specifically your Southern California market. I'm in the SoCal market as well. We've had guests that have been from Texas, New Jersey, North Carolina, but because we are in the same market, we have the same pain points and same experiences. Let's talk a little bit about what those state guidelines are and how they're impacting the Liverpool FC International Academy.
Yeah. So, the state guidelines are that there's no youth sports, or youth sports is not allowed at this time. However, some sports are and some camps are. So the difference between tennis, soccer, camp, practice, there's a lot of differences in perception and a misunderstanding on what can be done or what is done. And I think, I don't know, but I think that the powers that be, that educated people, see youth soccer as, 11v11, 22 people on the field running around, slide tackling, running into each other, physical contact, all that kind of stuff. Parents shouting and screaming on the sideline, whatever. Hold on a sec.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Austin.
No problem at all.
On the sideline, going crazy or whatever, and going, hey, that's not safe. And hey, I agree 100%. However, things can be changed. Things can be tweaked. Processes can be put in place. Protocols can be put in place to ensure safety measures, social distancing measures, and all this kind of stuff to make youth sports safe. We just got to see it in a different way, and we've got to put in the effort to educate people. We've got to put in the effort to train people. We've got to put in the effort to help people to understand that it's not just one way to do it. There's multiple ways of doing it, and we found a way where we can do it safely. So if you're asking my opinion, we think that we should be open if we follow our protocols and our processes to ensure the safety and that everything's in place. And we're not making if people have concerns or issues or challenges, then we understand. However, based on the information and the feedback from our organisation, the majority want to be playing. And, you know, youth sports activity has a massive impact on these kids, on the development of these players and the growth of these players and the physical and mental health and well-being of these players. So if you take into consideration all of those things and you put it alongside the safety measures and the protocols that we have in place, then it's way safer than going down to the local bar where you're allowed to go, or having your hair cut outside, what you're allowed to do, or going to the beach and playing spike ball, which you're allowed to do. So I think we just need to do a better job of having our voice heard about that. Soccer, as you saw it maybe a year ago, can be done in a different way. And, you know, I mean, we've been talking to our local reps and say, well, if you're allowing tennis, why can't we play soccer tennis? You know what I mean? If that's in the social distancing, one person across from the other court, okay, give me 30 courts and we'll play soccer tennis and social distancing. If that passes the test, then we'll do whatever we need to do to make sure it's safe for everybody.
Yeah, that culture of yes, I love that. And that is something that I remember from you, and I think that you've taken through all of your different levels of sport, not only back when you were playing, but also as you progress through your coaching ranks, is I'm going to come from it as you can do it, and I'm going to show you why you can do it. I'm going to tell you, hey, you know, let's not talk about no, you can't do it. Let's talk about yes, you can, and then we're going to focus on how you go about achieving. And that's really what you've done at Liverpool as well, right? You know, we'll talk a little bit about what you've instituted. There's some really cool resources and videos that I'm going to tag in the show notes, highlighting what you were doing, leading from the front in regards to creating this safe reopening, return to play environment. But let's talk a little bit about one interesting point that you mentioned, and that was tennis, camps. There are certain sports that are allowed to play that aren't allowed to play. Let's talk a little bit about the culture of yes type of environment that you've created in order to adopt what is allowed into what you are allowing in the club itself. Not so much the soccer, golf, or the tennis aspect of it. What type of guidelines are you having to adhere to? Are there social distancing, 6 feet, sanitation? What type of extra precautions have you instituted at the actual fields themselves?
Okay, let's test my memory because I don't have any notes in front of me, and I'll see if I can kind of get this right. So first and foremost, we have a self-check list that every player needs to complete before every practice. And it's basically a yes-no questionnaire. It's about 10 questions. And if they answer no to any of the questions, then they can't come to practice. So they have to do that every time. Then what we did, we created a player tracker. So every player, okay, was tracked of if they were coming to practice or not coming to practice. So we knew that they were there if they weren't there. Every player had to fill in the Cal South waiver, our own safety waiver, and also, you know, an agreement to adhere to the social distancing protocols that we put in place. So there was basically 3 forms that they had to complete to make sure that they were viable or allowed to come to practice in the first place. Then we created the one ball, one player, one grid kind of aspect. So each session was laid out grids of 10 by 10, and each grid was 6 feet apart from the next grid. And then each player was working within their own grid with their own ball, with their own cones, and with a bag and a water bottle in the corner of the grid. So they came to the practice with a mask on. They were assigned a grid. They took the mask off. They put it in the bag. They put the bag in the corner. They put the water in the corner of the grid. And then they worked on a series of technical drills, practices, techniques within their grid over a regular practice, which was conducted by the coach, who had a set curriculum, a COVID curriculum, approved by Liverpool, and also wearing a mask. Then at the end of the practices, they'd put the mask back on, they'd pack the water away, put the ball in the bag, and they would walk in a single file, and they would never come close to another player during our practice, or even close to the coach either. So everything was really, really structured. Now, when they got into the parking lot, they were all high-fiving and hugging each other. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That part. I don't know what they did after. We don't know. But we can 100% guarantee that we educated our families, our players. Okay, we laid down clear and concise instructions and processes that they need to follow, and our coaches were educated on what they could do, what they couldn't do, and how it needed to work. And it works great. It was brilliant. And we did it for a few weeks, and then kind of the city of Irvine shut us down and said, no, we can't use sports isn't allowed. So only camps are allowed. In essence, what we were doing in our team practices was individual training, which was like a camp anyway, because you can't work as a team when you're working in a 10 by 10 grid on your own. So it was an individual practice, but with the rest of your team. They wanted to change that to camps were allowed. I'm not sure I agree with that. You know, if I'm with a group of my 16 friends versus 15 or 16 strangers, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to feel a lot safer and a lot more comfortable with people who I know than people I don't know. So that's kind of the work that we did. And, you know, you've got the video. I think you've got practice sessions or sample sessions that we're willing to share with anybody who doesn't have the resources or the ability to create the structure that we created. And we're not saying that we're better than anybody else. We're just saying, hey, this is what we did. If this helps you, then we're willing to share.
That's brilliant, and I appreciate that that willingness. What I'm going to call it is the blueprint. I would love to share that blueprint in the show notes. Anybody, any team, any club out there that's needing some assistance creating this safe reopening environment, I'd love to be able to share that. So I appreciate your willingness on that. And that goes to show, you know, a little bit about the root of why what you're doing is so important. The root of coming up or creating this culture of yes and coming up with ways, safety-driven ways to get players back on the field. As the CEO, you see it from multiple different levels. You're hearing from coaches, you're hearing from administrators, you're hearing from team moms, you're hearing from players themselves in a lot of cases. Let's talk a little bit about the value that the kids and the coaches have had or did have when they were allowed to be on the field, as opposed to what you're hearing now that youth sports has been shut down.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we've worked really hard. You know, we work really hard all the time anyway, but we've had to work twice as hard during this time because it's unknown and it's not stuff that we've done before. So we've had to kind of create it, copy, learn, educate ourselves and educate others. And that takes time. So it's been a challenge. And like I said, you know, it's not for everybody, you know, but I would say 90 to 95% of our membership were so appreciative to be back on the field and to be working out with their coach and seeing their teammates in the flesh, keeping away from them, obviously, rather than doing a workout on Zoom and doing their own individual training plan that we provided for all of our players from March till June. So everybody was zoomed out and it was just great to be back in the open. And like I said, we would never jeopardize the health and the well-being of any of our players. So we were very stringent and very disciplined on our rules and how we needed to do this. And I think everybody was really appreciative of the efforts that went in, especially when there were other clubs, at the same facility, just scrimmaging and playing 8v8 and ruining it for everybody and jeopardizing the health and well-being of their families and players and coaches and the community. So that's where we need to go back to the education part, Austin. We all need to be on the same page, and we didn't invent this. We didn't invent a way how to, we created something that worked for ourselves, but we didn't reinvent the wheel here. We took pieces of information from the CDCs, different information from coaching sites, from other people who respected in the community, health experts, disease experts, all that. We put it all together. We didn't just make it up. We took this information and it's a lot of work. And I think that if we're going to be successful in this, we all need to learn from each other. And if we can help educate people who don't know this part of what we're doing, then that's great. Because we'll constantly be looking to learn from others who know more than what we do.
Brilliant. And you're dead on. It's going to take a team effort, everyone in solidarity, here in SoCal, across the state of California, and really across the country, to get us out of the current situation, not just in soccer, but thinking of it as the youth as a whole. Education, that still being unknown if there's going to be in classroom education, specifically in the K through 12 moving forward into the fall. What that looks like is still TBD. There's so much unknown. It is going to take a teamwork, a team effort, solidarity across the board for blueprints such as what you've created to come to light. To take all of the different data, to take all the different resources that are available and create something that does work to reopen, that does work to get kids back out there and does work to allow the kids to get back to somewhat of a routine that they're used to or accustomed to. And that's really where, the fun part of this conversation is going to take us from here on out. When you are creating, right, when you are thinking, when you are now in this idle, stagnant time period, what's on the horizon, right? What do you have coming up? What do you have that you are planning on launching in order to still provide value to kids in the SoCal market?
So if you'd, there's things that you can control and things that you can't control, right? So if you'd asked me this question at the end of March when this thing hit, we had to go into the think tank and get really creative, and our backs were against the wall, and we didn't know what to do, but through that challenge there, through that difficult period of figuring out the unknown, we were able to get creative and, put all of our teams on a schedule with Zoom calls twice a week, individual training plans, that they needed to do at home in the garden, all stuff to keep them active, keep them going. And then we evolved into the coach doing like a 15-minute technical session with the kids as well, which was fun. We did a global skills challenge with all the other Liverpool FC international academies, and the videos went viral and got over 1 million views from our individual training plans. They had former players, Champions League winners, coming on and congratulating everybody about, how hard they were working on their ITPs. So it was really, really cool. And I can send you a load of the stuff, but they got well recognized. One of our coaches, Jesus Oliveira, recently won Coach of the Month award amongst all of the LFC International Academy coaches worldwide. They actually sent him an award in the mail and presented it to him online, which was really, really cool for him to get that recognition for the service that he'd provided to his players and for, the players to work hard on their game. So that was really cool. That's what we did, and that's what we had to do. Now, because youth sports still isn't allowed, or team sports isn't allowed, now we've had to go from team practices to camps. And so that's what's allowed. So that's what we've created. So now all of our players are invited to attend camps, individual training camps. So that's what we're doing right now. What does the future look like? Well, I'm hopeful that the powers that be can see some of the stuff that we've done and some of the stuff that other people have done that's better than ours, and see that there is a way. There's a way to do this. And if it's done this way, they'll approve it. That's what I'm hoping. And, I'm not naive enough to think that we get back to normal, because we don't. The back to normal doesn't exist. There's a new normal that we can get to, but it's nothing like the old normal. So we've created a phased approach, and obviously phase 1 now is camps. Phase 2 would be, as weird as it sounds, to go back to our individual social distancing practices. That'd be phase 2. 1 player, 1 ball, 1 cone. Then hopefully within a few weeks, we could progress into phase 3, which would be small group training. So basically each team splits into groups of 4 or 5, depending on the number of the team, and work in that pod of players, and they stay within that group all the time. Then the next phase, phase 5, would be basically the team working together, play and scrimmaging against each other. Phase 6 would be to play other teams within a club. And then phase 7 would be to play other teams outside of a club, i.e. leagues, competitive tournaments, stuff like that. So that's our 7-phase approach of how we go from where we are now to back to the new normal, or seeing soccer as what we used to see it as in terms of 7v7, 9v9, or 11v11 on a field.
Yeah, that new norm and keeping up with the new norm is going to be a challenge for all. But I'm not a parent, so I can only speak from my platform or perspective. But if I'm going to send my son or daughter to a club or an organization to have them mold or develop them as an athlete and as a person, I want to send them to somebody who's taking the precautions as you just outlined. Let's talk a little bit about what that camp looks like. Who's it for? Where are the camps? How can one, if they're interested in participating, get involved?
Yeah, so we're running different camps all over Orange County right now. Hopefully moving up into the LA area pretty soon. They're open for all players, all ages, age-appropriate curriculum. Working basically on sign-ups with players the same age and same ability. Depending on sign-ups, of course. It's open registration, and anybody can register. LFCIA.SoCal.com.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely plug that in the show notes. Once again, if you're going to send someone somewhere during these difficult times, you might as well send them to a place that's taking into not only player safety or player development, but they're also on the forefront of creating that blueprint to successfully reopen. Having that 7-step plan in place, 7-phase plan in place, ready to go should the word be given, which hopefully is any day now that youth sports will reopen. At least that's what we're praying and hoping for on our end. But it definitely is a day-to-day struggle to see these kids going through the pain and suffering. Having a sister who plays U15 soccer and seeing what she's doing day in and day out, and then talking with you, and you have thousands of kids who are, now their lives have been upended, their routines have been upended. What are you hearing from players themselves? Do you get a sense that they understand what COVID-19 is and why they're out of their norm, not going to school or not doing what they're accustomed to?
Tough question. I've not really delved into that, to be honest. Just the honest feedback that I can give you is they want to be out playing.
Yeah.
They don't want to be at home. The Zoom calls and the individual training plans and the workout sessions that we're doing at home was okay for a while. And I think that people appreciated that, we put an effort in there. But we didn't want to go back to that. We didn't want to do 3.5 months of Zoom calls and then do 3 weeks of training and then go back onto an undetermined amount of time back on Zoom calls. I couldn't do that to our membership. We had to be creative. We've got to be creative and try to be progressive and try to move forward rather than backwards. So the camp format has to work for right now. However, going back to my original point, I think if we were able to get eyes on our protocols and our safety measures, I think that the powers that be would see that our training sessions and our social distancing measures that we've put in place for our team training is actually a safer protocol than pretty much all of these camps that are going on that are being allowed. So camps are good and we're thankful, but with the right training, with the right structure and the education of players, parents, and most importantly, coaches, team practices and an individual discipline can be a lot more productive and a lot safer than some of the other programs that are going on.
Brilliant. All right, Tim. Before I let you go, you got anything else to say? Anything you want to leave the viewers with here? One final thoughts from you.
No, just pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for reaching out, and I hope this helps.
It absolutely will, especially the blueprint that your willingness to share. That is fantastic. We're going to be on the forefront of fighting this fight and fighting the good caused battle of getting youth sports reopened, and it's going to take every single ounce of solidarity to push that along. So thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate your willingness to share, and we'll continue the conversation shortly.
Sounds good. Thanks, Austin.
Cheers, mate.
All right, bye.
All right, everyone. That was the one and only Tim Woodcock. This is Austin Turner signing off.